As you might know, Prime Minister Modi is in the US for a howdy with Donald Trump. This will be the first meeting between the two leaders since Donald Trump, for the second time, and Prime Minister Modi, for a third time, assumed their respective offices. At the high-stakes table, a lot will be up for discussion, from defense cooperation to bilateral trade, tariffs, visas, among other things. Hello and welcome, I'm Abhishek Singh and you're watching The Mint. Now before we talk about what's going to be on the agenda, as two of the world's most powerful leaders meet, let's spend a few seconds trying to understand the context within which this crucial bilateral will be held. And of course, what is at stake. Now, unlike Trump 1.0, this time the US president has hit the ground running, signing executive orders left, right and center, dramatically changing the existing order of things, not just within the US, but outside as well. But as he had said many of these things while campaigning, the shock has not been as harsh. However, his foreign policy moves on Greenland, Gaza, Ukraine will change the existing world order, sending out reverberations which will impact more than what's obvious now. And talking about some of the things Donald Trump has said, here's something I want you to hear.
When India, which is a very big abuser, but India is very tough, Brazil's very tough. There are certain countries, I can tell you everyone, I can give you from top to bottom. China's the toughest of all. So we're going to do a reciprocal trade. If anybody charges us 10 cents, if they charge us $2, if they charge us 100%, 250, we charge them the same thing. And you know what's going to happen? Everything's going to disappear and we're going to end up having free trade again.
That should give you some clue about what Donald Trump thinks of India as far as trade between the two countries is concerned. And if that's his bottom line, negotiating favorable deals with Trump is not going to be easy for India. What if Trump decides to pursue tariffs against India? As Trump has no regard for existing US relationships, like a businessman, his first question in any negotiation is, what's in it for me? And that's fair. But could it be the basis of a long-term bilateral strategic relationship? Perhaps it's not ideal. But in geopolitics, circumstances seldom are. So I asked Mark Linscott, who was part of Donald Trump's team in his first term, somebody who's familiar with the working style and vision of Donald Trump. How should India approach the negotiations?
Yeah, it's a complicated question. Take my advice with a grain of salt. But you know, with India and going forward and expectations to commence negotiations bilaterally, potentially with the threat of tariffs or actually with the imposition of tariffs, I think the impulse should be to allow for a broad agenda in terms of what's covered in the negotiation and be creative, as opposed to, you know, what may seem understandable but could be complicated or create complications. Retaliatory tariffs, you know, I'm not sure that they will help in the bigger goal of negotiating a bilateral trade agreement.
Now that we've understood the current context and of course how to approach the negotiations, let's move to the other part of the story. What's at stake? India's first obvious goal at the negotiating table will be to seek quick concessions to prevent a tariff clash. An escalation on this front will be like throwing a spanner in the apple cart, which US-India relations have been of late, except of course on the trade front. For decades, multiple US presidents and Indian governments have focused on taking the bilateral ties to the next level. And several experts we spoke with point out that the timing is just perfect for both countries to seize the opportunity to deepen the ties. India has certainly taken the first step with Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman slashing import tariffs, including those on high-end motorcycles. Tariffs on bikes, of course, is a subject Donald Trump has raised in the past in India's context. Some are seeing this as India preparing the ground to enter the talks on a more friendly note, as the decision was taken just days ahead of PM Modi's US trip. During the negotiations, one more point Trump is likely to use as a stick is the trade imbalance between the two countries, as India exports a lot more to the US versus what the US exports to India. Economist Gurucharan Das feels India can smartly use this as an opportunity to start importing oil and gas from the US and narrow the gap as a way to assuage Trump's primary concern.
Well, I think if we play our cards well, we should benefit from this. And as far as Mr. Trump is concerned, we can show him India can easily buy oil from America and reduce the surplus that we have, our trade surplus, and show to Trump that, look, we are your friend, but make sure your price is competitive also, the oil price that we get from America. But this is part of the trade negotiations that we can do.
The two-way trade between the two countries exceeded $118 billion in fiscal 2023-24, with India posting a surplus of $32 billion. Yet, trade relations between the two countries have seen ups and downs even during Trump's first term. In May 2019, he terminated India's preferential market access, accusing India of not giving the US reasonable access to its markets. He also raised import duty on Indian steel and aluminum products. Apart from this, there are two more important issues which are likely to come up during the Trump-Modi meeting. First, let's talk about the crucial fighter jet engine deal and deportations right after that. So India is in talks with the US for the purchase and co-production of combat vehicles as well as finalizing a fighter jet engine deal. India is likely to press, and this will be a test of sorts for the US, as US industry and administrations have encouraged efforts to buy American military hardware. The question is, will US give India what it wants? Experts we spoke with say some of these deals might actually come through, and that will be a welcome step. But nothing major is likely to be announced on this front. And last but not the least, the deportation row. Recently, US sent back the first batch of 104 Indian illegal immigrants in shackles on a military aircraft, triggering a political row in India. India's acceptance of undocumented citizens is also seen as a concession towards the US ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit. As per reports, there are about 7.25 lakh illegal Indian immigrants in the US. Some reports suggest that 20,000 of these have already been identified for deportation. From a legal point of view, the illegal immigrants would be treated as per US law, including being subjected to deportation. But the US should indeed be asked to manage the optics better. After all, we are talking about Indian citizens, and unless they are hardened criminals, nobody would appreciate seeing fellow Indians in handcuffs. In the end, a new start. India has done its groundwork and has already taken positive steps to set a good tone with Trump. And what could be seen as an encouraging sign, Donald Trump has criticized India on certain policy matters, but he has never criticized Prime Minister Modi directly. And perhaps that will help both sides in seizing this opportunity. If you like watching this video, please like and share, and don't forget to subscribe to The Mint.